Welcome you all and good morning from New Jersey. My name is Urvish Patel and I'm the co-founder and chief education officer of Research Update Organization. And Research Update Organization is an educational organization founded to promote clinical research and the application of community health. And today we are having three more panelists with us. Dr. Siddharth Besania, he's a chief resident in one of the hospital in New York. Kriti Agarwal, she's the second year resident working in New Jersey City. And we have Kenjal Solanki. Dr. Kenjal Solanki is the fellow of infectious disease practicing in state of New Jersey. And she's also API president of medical student resident and fellow subsection. So we welcome all of you and thank you so much, doctors, for your time and coming to this platform. The main goal of today's webinar is to make sure to tell to the students, and some of them are aspiring physicians, some of them are applying for residency. So goal of today is to make sure how we can create the awareness of importance of research in the residency program. I'm having one more guest. Let me just add her to the panel so that we can start the webinar. Can one second? Yep, I'm going to pin. Okay, yeah, we are having Dr. Batul Sheikh. She's also a third year resident in psychiatry from New York, one of the New York hospital, and she's also one of our co-host, and she will also share her detail with us. Let's start with Dr. Kenjal Solanki. Can you please tell us a little bit about your background?
Hi everyone, and thank you, Urvish, for this opportunity. So a little bit about me, which may connect to everybody else, is that I was born in another country, but I moved here at the age of 12, which is I was still a US IMG. So I did my medical school in the Caribbean, and then I'm a citizen, so I didn't have any visa issues. And I did my rotations in New York, and I matched in a residency in New York, and I'm currently doing a fellowship in New Jersey. So my research background, basically, I was involved in some data collection during my undergrad, but other than that, being an IMG, I really didn't have much research exposure. It was mainly, getting through your rotations, getting through your building up your CV and other extracurriculars to match. So when it came to matching process, I really did not have much to offer in terms of my research because, I did my residency in internal medicine, and research was not at a community hospital. So research was not really heavily looked at. So I got lucked out in that I didn't have to compete against other people in terms of research. But while I was at my community hospital, I did some research, and being in a university program right now, I'm doing more research. So hopefully I can share my experiences today with all you guys.
Definitely. Dr. Kriti Agarwal.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Urvish, for giving us this opportunity. And I'm really grateful, to have been getting the opportunity to practice as an internal medicine physician in US. So I am also a foreign graduate. I was born and I had my studies in India. I did a little bit of research during my medical school. I did some residency in India as well. But when I applied for USMLE for internal medicine position here, it was really challenging. At this point of situation, you have to analyze like what is the your personal situation, what is the requirements of the programs all over. So I'll be really happy to share my experiences and what are the requirements, what you should be looking for. I'm currently a second year internal medicine resident in New Jersey.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Besania.
Hey, Urvesh, thank you so much for having us. I'm Siddharth Bisani. I'm currently a PGY3 resident in a university affiliated program in New York, and will be going as a fourth year chief in one of the Jersey program. Like other panelists, I'm also an IMG. I was born in India, did my med school in India, then came to United States in pursuit of higher education. And during that time, I also did MPH with biostatistics major. So during that MPH time, I got chance to work with a couple of people who were interested in original research or database driven research. At that time, I got into touch with other professors and how I uh, created my path with the research to get it into residency, which played a big role. Not only getting in just for the residency, but also for the chief position. And it's going to help me a long way for my fellowship as well.
Thank you, Dr. Basania. Dr. Sheikh?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good to see all these beautiful faces. My background, I'm originally from Pakistan, but I grew up in US. Fortunately, I was able to get the scholarship, so I went back to Pakistan to finish my medical school. But my challenge again was that I became an IMG, and I had to match to the US program because that's my home. I did not have a research background, but I did some research experiences in big universities in Georgia and in North Carolina, but did not have any hands-on experience. So I wasn't able to offer much there. But with even the good credentials, it was kind of a little challenging for me to like shoot for the good USMLE scores. I was able to match, but then for my own experiences, I wanted to get some experience. So I did join the group and I was able to use my own experience and get some research background because I'm applying for fellowship and I want to match into the really challenging program.
Thank you, Dr.
So I'm here to answer any questions and will be able to help you.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Sheikh. We are having Dr. Patil, and he's doing fellowship. He's doing final year of pathology residency and going for the fellowship. Dr. Patil?
Hi, I'm Ashish, and I did my PhD in cancer genetics from Albany, New York. Then I worked as a fellow at Mayo Clinic, Rochester, Minnesota, in pharmacogenomics, then University of Pittsburgh. And finally, I applied for the pathology residency. It's like research. It helped me for the fellowship. Now I got a fellowship at University of Miami. I had not applied any places, just that's why I applied late because I was planning to go for a pharmaceutical industry for a job.
Right.
But then I decided now, seeing the job market in the last 1 or 2 months, right, it has gone down suddenly. The job market has literally is collapsing. So I just decided, let me get one HemePath fellowship.
Makes sense.
And it was just I applied and I got it. There was nothing else to be. It was no problem, and that I got because of the research.
Yeah.
It's like one thing. Research is how you do the research. Main thing I would say, do a research. If you are doing research, do the research for getting into USMLE.
Yes.
You should decide. The research should help you to get into, not for the sake of doing the research. The mistake what I did was that I like to do research, so I did research. That's, no one cares about having like high impact papers, right? Like I had in a molecular cell and twice it was highlighted in Nature, but it doesn't matter for the residency.
Right.
You should get it for you should have the main goal of the physician is to have the research analyzing experience. That's why they ask you for the research.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So that is very
because you are going to be a physician,
Mhm.
and you will be trying to look at new medicines, whether whatever the scientists say, is it useful? You have to get the research from the bench side to the bedside.
Very nice. Yeah.
That is the main goal. And then for me, the one problem with like, even though I had 10 papers, research helped me to get a green card, EB1A green card. But
Right.
in some programs, they were like, you are an old medical graduate. Like when I applied at University of Pittsburgh, the program director immediately straight away is saying, you are an old medical graduate. I'm not going to take you. Then why the heck you give me the interview, you know?
Makes sense.
Because of that, when he had told me I'm going to take you, first I left internal medicine residency. I had an offer in 2014 and I waited for pathology. But in the interview, then after getting an interview, first question is that you are an old IMG. You were like, you graduated in 2003. This was in 2014. Now, it's sometimes it can be frustrating.
No, makes sense. Makes sense.
So you guys have to plan
Right.
if you are going into residency, like little bit of research, little bit of observership, and try to get as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So that is the main thing. And sometimes the research will get you into very good programs. Like I had interviews in UCSF, Cedar Sinai, then Cleveland Clinic, but I didn't have around 23 interviews, but I didn't have, finally I was broke, you know, so I just signed a pre-match in November 1st, I signed a pre-match for pathology. Then immediately they gave a pre-match, I signed it.
Makes sense. So basically,
That's the thing. And in South Form, it was here the program was good. They allowed me to patent the stuff, whatever they allowed me to self-patent the attendings and all. And the freedom is there here.
makes sense.
And to do our
As
own research.
you are having all diversity of panel of young graduate to old graduate, from pathology to psychiatry to medicine, community program to university program. So it will be the very
One thing more thing, in a community program they may not give more weightage on research. Most of the community program, because you have to do lots of work, right? Because when you are a young graduate, you do the stuff very fast, like scut work.
Makes sense.
When you are an old IMG, they are not so much interested in doing the research, most of the community programs. So that you have to plan, and sometimes you don't need to, in community program, don't speak so much about the research unless the program director or anyone on the opposite end, he wants to speak about the research. So it's like a double-edged sword.
Yep. We also have Dr. Shiva and would like to speak a little bit about your background.
Hello everyone, my name is Shiva.
Yep, thank you so much for coming from the busy schedule.
Nice, no worries, Urvish. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Shiva Vangimala. I'm currently a PGY4 Chief Resident in a residency program in Washington, DC. I matched for my GI fellowship and I'll be starting my fellowship this July. In terms of research experiences, I did have a few months of basic science research experience prior to my residency because I had some downtime before my application season. And I can definitely say that those experiences laid the foundation for my research temperament, and also the outcomes from that experience did eventually help me match into a good residency program. During my residency, I changed my focus more towards clinical research. I was working on a lot of retrospective projects. I was also working on a lot of national databases. We also have a GI research group in our program, which comprises of residents and fellows and the attendings, so that all of us can work together and have like better outcomes and more outcomes. So I'm happy to share my experiences and answer any of the questions that you guys have.
Thank you so much. So let's start our first question. We can start with Dr. Kenjal Solanki. That was there any role of research during your residency application process, or how it is helpful to enter into the system first?
Yeah. So I kind of touched onto this question when I introduced myself. So as you know, that I did my residency at a community hospital in New York. And for that program, or for community hospital program, as Dr. Patil had mentioned already, they are not highly focused on research. So because I did not have much research background, especially during medical school or prior to applying for residency, I was fine. You know, the community hospital was fine with me not having that research experience. However, if you are, if you are mainly interested in research and in applying to a university program, if you're interested in matching for, let's say, GI fellowship or cardio fellowship, one of the competitive fellowships, and you are aiming to go to a university program, then research is very important, as Dr. Shiva mentioned. So unfortunately, I don't have much to add prior to my residency in terms of research.
What about Dr. Basania?
Hey, Urvesh. So I had a lot of time before getting into residency, into getting into research. The reality is, as a IMG studying out of United States, or even not even getting any rotations in United States, it has been difficult for the IMGs, especially in the last couple of years, to get into the system. So when the downtime is, let's say I couldn't match 2 or 3 years, the time that we have, I try to use that all of in the research. Reason being that the important part in your application, any residency application, either it is university program, community program, first thing is score. But once the scores are out, once the exam is done, there is nothing for you to go back and change that. So when score is out, the second thing is you have to build on your application. You can build on your application either with working with other attendings and putting it on your CV, or doing some research. Of course, you may or may not get chance to work with someone like observership or clerkship, but at the same time, we also need to know how much value it's going to add to your CV in terms of the content of whom you are working with, which program you are working with, whether you are working in a private clinic or a affiliated program where you can actually work and go and see with the residents. So my perspective for research was, when I had downtime, I put so much research on my CV that I can outshine other residents who are competing for the same spot where I'm going. Not only for one particular program, but also, let's say I got interviews in university programs, I got interviews in community programs. But at the same time, I wanted to make sure that I have choices rather than I'm just given one position and that's the one position I have to go. So in terms of research, I used to work with one of the physicians in New York, who himself was in a residency affiliated program. So I had a downtime of 2 years, didn't match for 2 years. And during that 2 years, I worked in the residency program, working with the residents on the different research projects. It's very hard to get a case report if you are not actively participant in the patient's care. But at the same time, the original research or data-driven research, or getting data for the hospital, or working on a nationalized data set, that kind of projects give me a lot of background to work with different residents in all the programs. Means all the program is PGY 1, 2, 3, surgery residency, internal medicine residency, psychiatric residency in our program. And that helped me a lot. This relationship that I built on this basis, that pushed me into further, and I matched into the same program 2 years later.
Well, that's a great news. Yeah. Dr. Agarwal also had MD in preventive medicine from India. So what did you do different than utilizing your MD experience from India and using it in research experience here and making your contact? Would you like to share your experience?
Sure. So after my medical college in India, I did do my community medicine residency for 3 years. So during that period, I did have opportunity to get some research. So that's mostly like a community-based research projects, outreach programs, kind of surveys. I had a dissertation during my 3 years of residency. So that was a small amount of research which I did, some experience, which I always had in my resume. But after which I actually decided to do my USMLE. It was a long period until I actually applied for residency. So in that time, I was already an old graduate. And I tried to get some research, but I didn't really have anything other than what I had in my residency in India. So, not really a very good research experience, I would say. Just I was lucky to have a couple of poster presentations that I could present in some conferences here in US. That's all I had during my application. So luckily, I did a rotation during my application process in a hospital where I'm actually a resident. And they accepted me. So that's all what happened during my process. So I think after when you're done during your USMLE steps, it's really important to have a research experience. One, it helps you, look into the other aspect other than your questions and the medicine. Research is a very important aspect of your application. So no matter I applied in community or university, whatever experience I had in India, they did ask me some questions in my interview. So it helped me, doing some helping in the interview process. Whatever the interviewer used to ask me, I had something to add on to it. But it was a few years back experience. So it's always good to have updated research experiences. Now, where to get research, how to get research, how much time you can invest in your research is really a challenge again when you are, doing with your USMLEs.
Mhm.
So I think if you can add like a full-time research job or research experience after you are done with other important aspects of the USMLE that's required, I think what Urvish has been recommending, you can always add onto your current process to your research. That always keeps adding. You don't have to invest like a 24/7 time to your research. If you join a full-time research position, that's different than what Urvish has been doing all these years.
Yeah, it makes
So
sense.
this really adds to your experience and it adds to your application.
So you
So
said you attended some of the conferences before applying for the residency. So how was that experience? Was that helpful for just putting in the CV, or was that helping for for the other point of view for networking opportunity?
exactly. So I think that was a very, very important time that I just got an opportunity to do some poster presentation in the conference. But with that media, I was able to make so many networks. And actually, Urvish was one of them. I met him in one of those conferences.
Yes.
So it is really important to make networks. So if you are applying, and I was actually, this was a neurology conference which I attended. I wasn't very keen on applying in neurology, but it's just the contacts. You never know who you meet, where you meet. So it's always good to go to these places. Even if you're not presenting anything, it's always good to just go into these conferences and just talk to people all the time. So it's
Networking,
very
yes.
important. Yeah.
Networking is a good skill. Besides
Mhm.
research, it's just putting you in a one umbrella of meeting people and knowing more about the thing, each other. We are having Dr. Batul and even Dr. Shiva working on their research projects during residency. Would you like to share your experience, how you are doing that thing, and then how it is helping you to succeed into your fellowship career? Dr. Batul, let's start with your opinion.
Okay, so as we are discussing about this community residency program, I'm one of the resident in community residency program. And as Dr. Patel said, it depends on how your program is offering you time or accepting that you want to do the research. Thankfully, my program is very open and they're always looking for scholarly activities. So I was lucky in that chance. But again, I did work as a research intern and an assistant prior to match, like right after I graduated. So that gave me some experience, but then when I wanted to start something on my own, I did not have much of the experience to how to initiate. Even though my program is saying, okay, let's do the scholarly activity, but where do I start? That's the
Right.
thing. Because when you're doing the research intern or the volunteer work in a university program, just to get the networking, you don't get much of the experience of how to initiate the things instead
Right.
of just helping them with the whatever the ongoing project is going on.
Right.
So I needed that skill. I did try to contact few people, even in my program. There are some mentors who helped me out. So that helped me. And with like prior to that, like when I was doing the research intern, again, was making the networking. There were some very well-known professors who are doing the research. They were able to give me the LORs as well. And I was able to explain to them. But again, when I went to the interview, I am saying, okay, I do this, I did that, but what's the outcome?
What-
There comes the clinical hand-on experience for the research.
Right.
That's what we need to learn. And like I'm person, I always want to learn. That's why I wanted to go into the research as well. Even my program doesn't even require just other than one scholarly activity for me to graduate. But as again, I said, I wanted to imagine a nice university program for fellowship. I'm a psychiatry resident and I'm not the third year, I wish I'm the second year doing the fast track for the child fellowship.
Yes.
So I'm going to be applying in July. I'm building my CV and I want to be in a university program for the child fellowship, child and adolescent. So that's a competitive
Right.
fellowship. So
That's
that's my key to go. You work on it. You should have like the enthusiasm and again, as Dr. Patel said, you need to have that motivation that you want to learn, not just to build the CV as well.
yeah.
There are channels. There is Patel. He's always there to answer your questions.
Yeah.
So if you
Now,
find the right track, you are there, good to go.
Dr. Shiva, how did you plan your few years of residency, make sure that match into the competitive GI fellowship?
Yeah, so I think like one thing that I would just tell everybody, whoever is doing residency, is I think the way you approach your mentors and faculty for research is very important. From my personal experience, what I can say is like when I was an intern, I did email a lot of faculty, including my program directors and professors and everybody saying like, hey, I want to be a part of research. Can I meet you? And to be honest, I didn't receive a single reply from anybody. That is when I started working with a GI fellow, and then I was part of his project. And after a year or two later, I kind of had a sense like how to think about research, how to come up with a research question, and so on. And when I think during my second year, I emailed the same people again saying like this is an idea that I have and this is what I want to do. And within 15 minutes, I got 4 replies back. So I think the biggest way to approach research is to kind of do your homework and put in your effort and reach out to people with an idea rather than just saying like I'm interested in research and what projects you have and how I can be a part of it. So I think that's the approach really makes a very big difference.
Right.
And the second thing is when you apply for fellowship, it's really important that you definitely have as much research as possible, no matter which fellowship, which specialty you're applying for. One thing that I strongly recommend people is about working in groups, like have your colleagues working with you so that you're part of multiple projects and you can have more posters, more abstracts, more articles come out, and you guys can share your authorship. I think working with a group, I think where it gets a little tricky is like sometimes you might have differences of opinion, especially when it comes to finally having your author list, like who's going to be the first author, second author, third author, and so on. But I guess if you can overcome that, it works fantastically well because what we do is like in our program, we have a research interest group, which is primarily run by the third year residents and the second year residents. We have the new interns who come in who are kind of doing a lot of data collection, participating in the projects, trying to understand how research works. And then we have a fellow and a professor who is mentoring the project. So we are currently we're working on 4 or 5 different projects. And whenever we have outcomes from any of the projects, there'll be a project leader who will be the first author, but then again, everybody else get a second author, a co-authorship, and so on. So by the time, like once you finish 4 or 5 projects in a year, if you work in a group, now you have more posters and more outcomes, and eventually your CV is going to look much better as well.
Makes
I
sense.
think those were the 2 main things that really helped me during residency.
That completely makes sense. Having a research group and a structural research program wherever you are going, it's most crucial if you want to match in the fellowship. And let's say if you don't have it, then plan making it from a very first year or as soon as you join the residency. Probably first year is not is hectic, but that you are not going to get chance that much of chance. But second year onwards, you can work on that, make multiple groups, start multiple projects. That's something will help you a lot to have multiple publication by the time you're applying. Dr.
Can I
Patel?
use this? Can I
Yeah.
use this to segue into because I had a lot of research experience during in my community hospital, so I'm solely going to talk about community hospital. And now we have already talked about how a structured research program works in a university hospital versus now a community hospital. So I just wanted to use this topic to just segue into this, and
Sure,
then we
sure,
go back.
Yeah.
So the way it works in a community hospital is a lot of the hospitalists or teaching attendings, they're not hired, or they don't have a dedicated time to do research. And they don't have any responsibilities to apply for funding or anything like that. So in a community hospital, you don't have a structure. No one has research projects going on, none of the attending. So if you do end up matching into a community hospital and you do wish to pursue fellowship options at a university hospital, even if it's a competitive fellowship, you really have to dig your grave while you're doing your residency, and your first and your second years are the most important years. So when I started my internal medicine residency, I actually didn't even know that I was going to do a fellowship. I was interested in ID, but I wasn't really sure. There's cardiology. I was like all over the place initially, which a lot of us are, before we decide what we want to go into. So I started my first year. I had a mentor. My third year, she did a bunch of case reports, and she matched into endocrine fellowship. So she helped me do a case report, and I presented at a New York ACP conference. There is also MSSNY conference as well. So I did that as a first year, and we had 25 residents in internal medicine, and only like 2 or 3 of the first years had a poster in a conference, and I was one of them. And I was very excited that this was my first opportunity. Even if it was a case report, it was my first opportunity to learn or to get into this research, or how the research process works. And from then on, I think my flight kind of took off, because second years I was just, I had a list of all the conferences there were, including oncology conferences, ATS. So I would make a list of all the conferences, when the deadlines are, when the conference actually is. And we had a lot of cases, because in community hospital, you see a lot of patients, more than you see in university hospitals. And you're pretty much working all the time, but you also see all these exciting, complicated cases that you may not see in a university hospital. So you have to use that to your advantage. So I had a lot of opportunity to write the cases, because one, not a lot of people were interested in writing the cases. And two, I had a lot exposure to all these interesting cases that you may not in a university hospital. So I used that to my advantage, and I wrote up. I think I had more publications in pulmonary than I had in infectious disease. But anyways, just to keep my options open, because I really didn't know what I was going to do. And so I did that my first and my second year. And then eventually I decided to do fellowship in ID. But in addition to this, we also had a quality, every community hospital or university hospital, you have quality improvement projects. So that is something that will be available even if you're in a community hospital. So do get involved in quality improvement projects. It doesn't have to be your project. It could be like a department thing. It could be like one of the attendings who's involved. And even if you have to just kind of collect the data, you can put it in your CV that you are involved in the quality improvement project. And I was involved in a GI, cardio and ID quality improvement project. So at least I was able to talk about it when I applied for my ID fellowship, that I was involved in this QI project. And QI projects also have their own conferences that you can apply for, and your community hospital or your university hospital will pay for your travel and reimburse you for all of that. So yeah.
I strongly support Kenjal about it. For the community programs, definitely there is not a structured group for the research, but you can always initiate it, and you can always there is always a mentor or attending who is interested in it. If that's a topic they want to go for it, like I had a topic with the addiction, and I reached out to my attending who is an addiction psychiatrist, and he was very willing to go for it and be my mentor and a senior author. They do not usually have the experience of writing, but there are opportunities to learn how to write, how to initiate it. And I think that's why we have this panel and how to initiate it. I'm a second year resident, I already have enough posters and already publications that I'm like feeling confident to apply for. So start early, set your goal, and then look for the right people and go from there. We all can do it. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Dr. Patil had experience.
One thing I wanted to add, you can, it depends on the program director and the chair mainly, like each program that I should have made it clear. Even in some university programs, they like, some may not like. Some community programs, they will like research. Some of them may not like.
So Dr. Patil, you have experience of basic science research and clinical research, and now you are in clinical practice. So now I would like to know specific thing that which help you the most, right to enter in residency, and which help you the most to enter in the fellowship? Do you think something is better than other thing, or having clinical?
For me, at this program, PhD helped in LSU. It was they had a pre-match, right? And they took all the PhD old IMGs and they got out our LSU Shreveport, because or they prefer MPH, MRCP, MD. For IMGs, they not mostly fresh out of medical school with some additional degree. Here our program prefers. Right. And this was our program was when then after joining here I came to know our program was the one which started the research. It was our ex-chair, right? We were the first one to start research, getting research for residency, and it was mandatory for us. Not so much residency work, like not much grossing, not even dictating writing the attendings like epic notes. It's not mandatory. The attendings do it in our program. Because our program director, even our program director, she does not even make us to fill her the epic notes or even to get. We have to just sit with her and look at the scope, nothing else. Yeah, but research, she says you have to do your own research for this project, whatever you like, or you can do with an attending. And you can come up with your own stuff. You can get it patented or whatever you want to do. So we had that freedom, but it depends again with each program director. Basic science research. Sometimes I feel it was after I lost 1 year, right? First year, when I got Alabama UAB, I did not take internal medicine. Thinking that it was out of match offer because my classmate was a PD also. And then when I applied only 2 places. Makes sense. In first time for pathology. Because I was thinking right then when I came to know that I will not get it, it was for 1 year. It's frustrating because you have spent so much of time, right? So, but for fellowship, it helps a lot. It was just a cakewalk. Right. For fellowship, it was, and even for job opportunities. Like I applied for jobs, right? I had a director position of one clinical lab and also a director of a pharmaceutical company. Right. I'm getting already. I had 2 offers, but just I want to have a security that I need a one fellowship, right? And then I will go for a job. Right. Now that's what I'm planning. So it helps a lot in if you are going for pharma sector, and there is a huge demand for physicians in US in pharmaceutical sector. Right. And I was working recently. I took a coaching from Dr. Nerissa Kreher, industrymdcoach.com. Like she is an Entrada Therapeutic Chief Medical Officer. Right. But, and the jobs in the pharmaceutical jobs are more like traveling. Just 1 or 2 hours she works, and great. She can adjust her schedule from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night. No, that's the time she says she does the online work. And the pay packages are like around 900,000 annually for pediatric endocrinologist. It opens a lots of opportunities. Right. And if you have a research, right, basic science research with little bit clinical, if you have, you can go into drug development. Makes sense. Because in the drug development, what most of the basic science research when I was doing is what to do for me, which it helped me. What to do was my MBBS from India, and I was doing orthopedics residency in India before coming to USA. That it helped me more. Then my basically PhD, it taught me what not to do. What not, yeah. So so what happens even though when you are drugs, right? All the companies give the patent drugs. So 1 in 5,000 drugs pass the clinical trial. Right. And in the basic science, reproducibility is just 5% of the all basic top 100 papers. Basic science research is reproducible. That's the reason pharmaceuticals are in lookout for MDs. Makes sense. No, but even if you don't match, I would love to have a green card. You can go for a pharmaceutical job, and the jobs are like Starts with
It's good. It's good.
250,
Yeah, makes sense.
but immediately you can climb up. Like
Right, right. So
around 700, 800 physicians should be able to climb up.
yes, yes, we can definitely talk about the other opportunities of basic science and clinical research besides residency and fellowship for sure in one full separate session, because that is also another opportunity. If you are having research knowledge, though you are old and graduate, it will be definitely helping you to match into residency or fellowship. But how there are other aspects of research you can explore being a physician, not into the clinical medicine. Besides all this important thing, I would also like to know from all of you, like one or two brief take-home message for our upcoming and current residents, or the people who are in first year, how they can pursue their career of residency so that they can achieve the dream fellowship, whether they are in community hospital where in-service fellowship option is available, whether they are in community hospital where they have to fight and compete with other residents, and if they are in university hospital. So what are the most important key things, which take home message, which our viewers can get it? Dr. Siddharth, let's start with you. Probably one or two quick lines would you like to say?
So quick points will be whether you should do research. Yes. Does it help? Yes, yes. And how to do it? That depends on how much interest you can develop in the activities that you are doing.
Right.
It's not only about getting into residency. It's also going to actually help in your steps. Let's say if you are doing USML is side by side with the research that you are doing, even though you are just doing for an hour, all the stats or all the statistics that you are going to learn during that research curriculum, you will be able to use that in the USMLE exams, which is in later years, which has been heavily tested, especially on the step 3. How it is going to help you in the long run, if you know this, of course, it's going to help your CV to get into some residency or going to help you in the fellowship. But at the same time, it opens a vast job market for academic positions if you have a good research base for yourself. So that kind of, if you are thinking in long term, it's always good to have 1, 2, 3, or 4 good research, quality research papers on your CV, regardless whatever you do for rest of your life.
Makes sense completely. Dr. Solanki?
So quick points on research. I mean, definitely this is the time that you can get experience in research, no matter where you go in life. Even if you end up, being a hospitalist or doing outpatient, this is your only time to get experience. So please use your time wisely. I know a lot of IMGs, they have a lot of things to struggle. They have USMLEs, rotations. So if you can make time to get some research experience, as it was mentioned multiple times during this conversation, that research experience not only helps with building your CV for academic positions, but it also opens doors to making the network for networking and making the connections that you need to get into residency, right? Because if you're doing research at that hospital, you may end up matching there in 2 years or whenever, or your research coordinator or your research director may know someone at another hospital, and they can make a phone call for you if you did a great job doing research for them. So that's the second one. And third thing is, doing research at this stage of your life is it's going to add to your CV in a way where even if you do get in 1 or 2 interviews, and let's say your program director has done research or is interested in the same field. Let's say you did research in endocrinology, and your program director is an endocrinologist, then you will have a lot to talk about during your interview, and that will set you apart from everybody else. So it not only adds to your CV in a one directional way, but it opens multiple doors at this stage.
Yes, makes sense. Dr. Agarwal?
Right. Yeah. So I think research is really important, no matter what level you are at your preparation. Are you trying to get into a medical school, or if it is into residency, you are a resident fellow, it always adds up, a new area of exposure. You can always get into some more details and ideas. Once you never know how much interested you are unless and until you do it. If you're really interested, you will have more, ideas getting into your research projects. So it will definitely add to your CV, it will add to your experience, but it will really, give you more options in your future. So it will give you more opportunities in job, as everyone discussed. I completely agree that, community hospitals, you may not have the push from other attendings and your colleagues to do a research, but if you find a passion for research,
You're breaking. Hello. I think we lost her. Dr. Batul, would you like to share your thought?
Um, I can't say enough that how much research helps you.
Right.
Building your own CV, building your confidence, building your own knowledge.
Right.
So my 2 cents is start small, but start early.
Right.
If you have ideas, just start putting on, get people who you think will be supporting you, will be helping you, and are with the same mindset that they want to work on it. Then just start writing things up and start reaching out to the people. And it definitely helps you getting into the residency. And I'm really hoping it definitely helps into the fellowship as well.
Dr. Shiva, I'm having a specific question that we are having few of the residents who is doing independent GI research like by themselves from multiple collaboration, multiple institute. And we have many candidates like that in the first year and second year. So what are the specific things that they can do it, because they are not having, as you mentioned, structural groups or in their own hospital? So what is the something that you can share with them that they can do from a beginning so that they can plan the GI fellowship from a very early point of view?
So from my experience, what I can say is like for example, I decided on pursuing a GI fellowship even before I did my residency. So
Yes.
first thing is like if you have research opportunities prior to residency, try to find a research opportunity in the field that you want to go to. For example, I worked in a GI basic science research lab for about 8 months before residency. So that kind of laid foundations for not only research, but also research in GI. And then once you come towards your residency, you can pretty much start working on anything. I think the biggest challenge for IMGs is actually the inertia to do research work. So to kind of break that inertia, I would recommend people to do or like to start with something small. Write up like case reports, write up like case series reports, because the first paragraph that you write, like literature wise, is going to be your toughest one. The second paragraph becomes much easier. The third paragraph becomes much easier. And your second article will be easier and so on. So to break that inertia, start with something small. Try to try to find an area which interests you, because at the end of the day, research in residency or before residency is something that you have to do out of your own interest. If you find something that you like, it just makes the process more easier and enjoyable. I strongly recommend working in groups, because I think that is the time when you act. I mean, there would be certain times, especially during residency, where you don't have enough time, or you may feel a little frustrated, you may feel a little burnout. That is when having colleagues kind of helps you, because they are pushing you to do things.
Right.
And even you would be on certain busy rotations, you would be having some floors, ICUs back to back, so you won't have time for it. So at that time, if they're on something on easy rotations, they are taking the project forward, and project keeps going forward like month to month and year on year basis.
Also, I want to add to this. For being in a community program, like we said, there is not a structured format, but while you're doing your rotations, let's say, for example, you are interested in pulmonary critical care and you're working in the ICU. Yes, it's a very tough rotation, but you also have all these intubated patients in the ICU. So think of a project that you can just, if you want to do like a hands-on research in a community program that doesn't have, like a already research projects going on, then you come up with a project, you have your subjects who are intubated pretty much, right? And then you can collect data while you're still working in the ICU. So you just have to be a little creative, and you have to push yourself harder when it comes to being in a community program, because we had someone from our program who matched into a very good GI fellowship from a community program, but this is something that he kind of did, looked into all the GI bleeders in the ICU, and he just came up with a project and he got published like that. So you just have to kind of think outside the box when it comes to coming up with research projects.
So there are many.
One thing, Urush, I
one
just
thing-
want to add one thing.
Yes,
Sorry
yes.
to cut you off.
Yes.
So I think like not only just within the program, there's always an opportunity for you to collaborate with your friends, your peers who are interested in similar field from across the programs as well. Because I know there are a couple of cardiology groups where they have residents from different programs working on a lot of national databases, de-identified databases, review analysis, meta-analysis, and so on. So try to, if you feel you don't have enough, I think there's always scope for research no matter where you are. I think it just depends on like what you're interested in and how much you're willing to go for, like how much you're willing to sacrifice or put the effort to kind of make it happen at the end of the day.
Right. So we have a lot of opinions from all of you guys. Dr. Patil, yes,
Yeah, one thing I want to add, for those people who already had a PhD, right, or some experience, research experience, 1 year, if you don't match despite that, one thing you guys should do, try to mentor someone, teaching experience. You can become a research mentor for someone in your CV, and that also helps, because if you these are the another aspect. Many of the people who are applying for residency,
right,
some of them may not have many of them don't have mentoring experience, but people who are already a faculty outside, right, they will have the mentoring experience.
right.
So you guys, if anyone can add it, then if not also, then they should try to management experience like MBA. Those stuff also will work in addition to research.
Makes sense. Okay, so let me quickly summarize take-home messages from all of you. As Dr. Siddharth said, pre-residency contact and working for a physician for a longer time on some of the research project. That is a one way to make contact and enter into the residency. As Dr. Kriti mentioned, that attending conferences before application, making multiple contact. That's how I met her basically. So making many contacts and networking is another important point of view. As we mentioned, that score we cannot change, then you can work on other modifiable factors, like we have modifiable risk factors, right? So these are the research is a modifiable factor, clinical experience is modifiable factors. Once you are into the, like Dr. Shiva mentioned, that if you have interest from the beginning, then make sure you do research. And if you're having higher score, then you do the research in the specialty or subspecialty you want to do fellowship. So it will be add on to your CV from a day one. And once you match to the residency program, if the community program is having fellowship, that as Dr. Solanki mentioned, that you work hard on a very small thing, case report, systematic review, literature review, a quality improvement project, which is a good thing. So this thing will help you to match there and also match somewhere else. And also most of the residency programs are having residents and fellow personal development fund to learn the research, to publish the research, to present the research in the conference. So make sure use it, that fund, as much as you can. And then, even though it's for just a small study, quality improvement study, or it's like a national data or case report, but utilize that fund. Once you utilize that fund and you have that excess of the fund, then you can have more, even curiosity to attend more conferences, because you are sponsored through your hospital program, but also you are making connection for you. So that is one important aspect. And definitely during residency, if you are doing some research, it will help you in fellowship. But as Dr. Besania mentioned, that after that also, if you want for the academic position, that will be a very helpful thing to enter into the academic position. And besides that, after being physician, pharmaceutical industry, marketing, and all those big giant whole network is there. Even though after you become physician, and if you think you don't want to pursue the clinical practice, then there is a whole another world of non-clinical practice too, being a physician, if you are having a good research experience. So that is overall summary that I feel. If you have any question, I can take 2-3 questions, and then you can put it on our channel, Facebook page, and tag one of our, any of us, whomever you need to ask question, then we are going to respond back. And we also have, I would like to one more, tell you guys one more thing. If some of you are applying for residency this year, and then we are having API, American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, and they have 2 or 3 wonderful programs beside organizing conference, publishing their work. So Kenjal will tell another program which they just recently launched for international medical graduate. Kenjal, probably you can explain them the whole thing.
So for those of you who are not familiar with API, API is the American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin. It's the largest cultural physician organization. It's the largest physician organization after AMA in the United States. And we are now, working hard to make our organization and our programs dedicated towards helping medical students, match into residency as well. So Urvish is doing a fantastic job collaborating with us for that. And that's why we have these webinar series. So just as a heads up, we have our second webinar coming up in 2 weeks on April 25th. And that is, the title of the webinar is Match 2022 and your post-match options for those of you who have not matched this year. So we will have more excellent speakers at that time. We also have a clinical observership program it can be, I put the website in the chat box. It's apiusa.org. You can visit the website. There is information about the clinical observership program, and I will also leave a phone number you can contact if you have more. If you need more information regarding this observership program. So it's not with research and with observerships and with building up your interviewing skills is how you build up your CV to compete against these American graduates for the match process. Yes,
that's true. So yeah, Kriti said very well that having very balanced CV is most important thing. No need to spend like all 40 hours in research assistant position. Have like a little bit of time for research, dedicated time for clinical work, clinical experience, and other work on other aspect of the CV to enter in the residency program. Probably if some of you are applying, then that next webinars will be very much helpful to you. So again, we all will welcome you. So stay connected, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask us. We are happy to help you guys. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks.
All the best, everyone.
Yep,
Thank you.
You will get there. Just keep hope and continue working.
Thanks, and thanks to the participants that coming here and attending the session with us. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Urvish.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Enjoy. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye. Let me